When I'm thinking about mixing in general, I often kind of separate it, any choice that I might make, right? If I have two choices, if I'm adding some specific plugin or Ableton effect, the reasoning behind that, there's normally a kind of clear theory that I'm trying to obtain or go after with by adding some specific plugin. An example of that might be, obviously in the electronic music world, with the loudness war raging on as time continues, something that is important in the mix down and obviously the mastering process, but to me, especially the mix down process, is to make a determination on a compromise between loudness and distortion, or a change in timbre that you might have to give up in order um, to achieve this loudness that you're looking for. Playing around with something like a saturator or a limiter or a compressor in order to gain some loudness, my decision would be, well, does this thing that I've added, or the thing that I'm experimenting with right now, does it increase my potential loudness? So a way that we could illustrate that quickly is with a simple audio effect rack that I've created. So in this audio effect rack, I have it's just two, very, very simple, two inserts here. One is the glue compressor, Ableton's collaboration with Psymbionic, and then Ableton's utility. So what I've done here is map a macro to the makeup gain on a glue compressor, and inversely mapped it to the gain on the utility to reduce the gain after the fact. The reason why I do this is because of this little button right here, soft clipping. So I'm using the glue compressor soft clipping in order to potentially make a sound louder by adding some amount of distortion. And then again, coming back to that compromise where I'm giving up some amount of timbre change or tonality change or cleanliness distortion change in order to achieve a greater loudness. As an illustration of that, with my kick here, if we were to look at the master channel, so here, solo this kick channel and just see where it lands here on the master peak meters. So negative 13.4. That means that if only the kick was playing right now, then there would be 13 or so decibels of headroom left over in my non-normalized render here. So when it comes to this soft clipping, as I turn this up, you see that I turn up the makeup gain here with this macro, but my threshold and my range are at 0. So that means that there's no compression that's being added. This glue compressor is not compressing at all, which may seem a little bit counterintuitive. But again, this soft clipping enabled here, and this little indicator, this very small indicator here that sits next to the word clip, will tell us when the glue compressor is adding soft clipping to a sound as we increase the makeup gain. So let's watch here. So obviously we've changed the sound pretty dramatically, right? We can now hear the very obvious distortion that's coming through on the kick. So to me, that's a compromise that isn't really worth the potential increase in volume that I may get. And the way that I would measure that increase in volume as a means to compete in the loudness war, if you will. If I reset my master meters here, we're now at negative 17 and change decibels of headroom. So we gained about 4 decibels of headroom in exchange for this distortion that we've added. So just a quick A-B comparison. This is what it's on, and then off. So we definitely lose a lot of the low end, but you know, there's again, there's a trade-off here. So even though I didn't actually have this glue compressor effect, you know, the soft clipping audio effect rack on this specific kick channel, I think that it's an amazing way to use Ableton's native audio effects to achieve something that, you know, you may have to use a very specialized third-party VST for. So if we were going to use this in our final mix, right, I would use my ears to determine where that compromise sits. So the compromise between loudness and distortion. And in this case, I may have already used third-party plugins elsewhere to compress and push the sound so much that the glue compressor in this location doesn't necessarily change anything drastically enough to make a big difference.